There are some things in life that keeps calling you back, not in a loud, dramatic way, but in a quiet, consistent, tapping on your shoulder type of way. And over the years, I've learned when something like that keeps returning to you, it's a sign that's worth paying attention to. And for me, one of those things has been my podcast. If you're new here, welcome. This is 1-800-Gold Digger. This is my space for honest conversations about ambition, identity, growth, and the ugly truth that often lives underneath becoming the women we say we want to be. And if you have been here before, then you know this podcast was never meant to just be polished motivation or surface level advice. This was always meant to be more real than that. It's meant to carry the messy side of ambition, the emotional side, the side people do not always say out loud. And in this season of my life, that matters to me even more. This is not really a comeback in a I am back and better than ever kind of way. It's more personal than that. It feels like returning to something that still has meaning, but returning to it as a different woman than the one who first started it. And I think that is what this episode is really about. So this is me reintroducing the podcast, but maybe it's also me reintroducing myself. Hi, I am Mika Liu. I'm a woman in tech sales, also the host of 1-800-Gold Digger. And outside of my day job, I am deeply passionate about growth, especially the inner kind of growth that does not show up on a resume. I started this podcast because I noticed that I kept having conversations with driven women who were building impressive lives from the outside, but privately carrying questions that nobody around them seemed to be asking out loud. Questions about identity, about ambition, about what it really costs to be the woman who seemed to have it all together. I wanted to create a community where those conversations could finally have a home, where women like us could be honest, not just impressive. When I first started 1-800-Gold Digger, the name was very intentional. It was a play on gold digger, and I chose it that way because I wanted it to be memorable. Also, it came from something real. I had an experience years ago when I felt the weight of being seen that way, and it stayed with me. Not because it was true, but because I understood exactly what was being projected onto me. That moment left an imprint, and it became a reminder of how quickly women can be judged for what people assume they're getting instead of being respected for what they are building for themselves. Part of me wanted to reclaim that narrative, to take a phrase like gold digger and turn it into gold digger. To me, that meant a woman who goes after what she wants, a woman with ambition, a woman with hunger, a woman who is building something for herself. Now, after living a little more, I do not relate to the word digging in quite the same way. These days, digging feels a little heavier to me. It makes me think about how hard we work, how much we pour in, and how easy it is to believe that becoming has to feel like constant labor. But I still love the name. It's catchy, playful, full of personality. I just hear it differently now. Less relentless striving, and more like a name that came from a version of me I still respect, even if I have grown beyond how I used to understand ambition. You might be wondering, does she not believe in ambition anymore? What does it mean to grow beyond how you used to see it? My answer is, yes, I still believe in ambition. I still believe in wanting more for yourself. I believe in reinvention. I strongly believe that women should not apologize for having vision for their lives. But what has changed is that my understanding of ambition has become more layered, more honest, and less shiny. Earlier in my journey, ambition felt more straightforward. You set a goal, you worked hard, you stayed disciplined, you kept going. And yes, in some ways, that is still true. Discipline matters, vision matters, effort matters. But life is rarely that simple. As much as we want growth to be linear, it almost never is. Because the longer you live, the more you realize ambition is never just about goals. It's about identity. It's about self-worth. It's about fear. It's about the story you tell yourself who you need to become in order to deserve the life you want. Sometimes we think we're chasing a goal, but what we're really chasing is a feeling of being enough, a feeling of safety, a feeling of finally becoming the person we think we're supposed to be. And if we really boil it down, it's the feeling that we matter, the feeling that we're loved. And that makes the whole thing a lot more complicated than just motivation and productivity. At some point, I stopped doing this podcast, but not because I stopped caring. I stopped because life moved, I moved, something inside of me shifted, my energy and my priority changed, my relationship with myself changed, and honestly, my relationship with success started changing as well. There are seasons when you're still doing a lot on the outside, but internally something is being rearranged. And when that happens, you do not always have language for it right away. You might feel yourself changing before you have the words to explain what is changing. Sometimes growth does not feel like expansive. Sometimes it feels quiet. Sometimes it feels uncomfortable and even confusing. Sometimes it feels like standing in the space between who you were and who you are becoming, lost for words, because the words that once fit your life no longer do. And I think that was true for me. There was a period where I was still becoming someone, but I was no longer the same person who started this. And when your identity is shifting, your voice can shift too. That can be unsettling because I think a lot of us assume that clarity should feel clean. But some of the deepest clarity in life comes through discomfort first, through silence first, through the strange experience of outgrowing something before you truly understand what comes next. And maybe that is why this return feels meaningful to me, because I'm not coming back here to say, I have figured everything out. I'm not coming back here as some expert that solved the equation of ambition and life and womanhood and identity. I am coming back as someone who has lived a little more, felt more, questioned more, seen more of the emotional truth underneath the things we casually call success. And I think that truth is worth talking about because I no longer want to talk about goals in a shallow way. I do not want to talk about ambition like it is always glamorous. I do not want to talk about discipline like it solves everything. I do not want to talk about growth as if it is always exciting and empowering. Sometimes growth is grief. Sometimes growth is realizing that the version of you that got you here cannot take you where you want to go next, and you have to let her go. Sometimes growth is admitting that the things you once wanted does not hit the same anymore. Sometimes growth is seeing how much of your drive has been shaped by pressure, fear, loneliness, comparison, or the need to prove yourself. And sometimes growth is not about becoming bigger. Sometimes it is about becoming truer. That is something I have been thinking about a lot. What does it mean to become truer? Not more impressive, not more polished, not more validated, but more true. What if the next level of ambition is not just doing more, but understanding yourself more honestly? What if the next level is emotional depth? What if the next level is no longer performing strength all the time? What if the next level is learning how to build a life that actually fits you, not just one that looks good from the outside? These are the kind of questions that interest me now. And for me, that is what 1-800 Gold Digger means in this season. It still carries ambition. It still carries edge. It still carries hunger. But now it also carries honesty. It holds more of the ugly truth. The truth that there is often burnout underneath performance. The truth that there is self-doubt underneath confidence, the truth that there can be exhaustion underneath competence, the truth that women are often carrying far more emotionally than they let the world see, the truth that becoming is not always pretty, and still it matters. I want this podcast to be a space where those truths can exist, a space where we can talk about ambition, but also identity, a place where we can talk about goals, but also the women behind the goals, a place where we can talk about reinvention, not in a shallow way social media sells it, but in a real, meaningful way. Because I think many women know how to sound ambitious, but fewer women feel safe enough to talk about the emotional weight of ambition. Fewer women feel safe enough to say, I'm strong, but I'm tired. I'm driven, but I'm changed. I want more, but I also want peace. I have built a lot, but I'm still trying to understand myself inside of it. And that is the conversation I want to have here. In this next chapter of 1-800 Gold Digger, I want to talk about things like what happens when your ambition changes, how women shrink in rooms they already belong in, the hidden exhaustion of being the strong one, why sometimes the issue is not discipline, it's honesty. I want to talk about identity, the way we see ourselves, emotional patterns, and the cost of caring too much for too long. Because these are not abstract ideas to me anymore. These feel lived. And I think that is the difference. When something is lived, your voice changes, your perspective changes, your pace changes. You stop needing to sound impressive and you start wanting to sound true. That is how I want to come back. Not louder, not shinier, just truer. And maybe that is what returning is really about sometimes, not going backward, not recreating the past, but revisiting something with deeper understanding. I'm not trying to become the woman I was when I first started this podcast. I'm trying to honor her and also honor the woman I'm now, the woman who still believes in building, but also believes in reflection, the woman who still believes in ambition, but no longer worship performance, the woman who still wants growth, but wants it to feel more aligned, more grounded, and more honest. So this is me coming back, not because everything is perfect, not because the path is fully mapped, not because I suddenly became fearless, but because I think there is value in returning to what's real. And because I think the things that keep calling you back are not random. Maybe they are invitations. Maybe they are reminders. Maybe they are unfinished conversations between you and a deeper part of yourself. Maybe the question is not, why does this keeps coming back? Maybe the question is, what is here for me now that was not here before? And that's the spirit I want to bring into this new chapter. So if you're still here, thank you. If you're new here, welcome to 1-800 Gold Digger, where I share gold digging ugly truth, the real and often unspoken side of becoming the woman you want to be. And if you have been here before, thank you for meeting me again in a new season. If you have ever left something and wondered whether you are allowed to return, you are welcome here. If you have ever outgrown an old version of yourself and felt disoriented by what comes next, I see you. If you have ever felt ambitious and tired at the same time, powerful and uncertain at the same time, hungry and reflective at the same time, then you are probably in the right place. This is 1-800 Gold Digger, a space for honest conversations about ambition, identity, emotional truth, and personal growth. Chasing goals is not always pretty. Growth is not always graceful. Reinvention is not always glamorous. And the ugly truth is often where the real wisdom lives. Maybe the things that keeps calling you back are not distractions. Maybe they are redirections. Thank you for being here, and I will talk to you in the next episode.